Hi guys, Rhonda without an H here with you today. I thought I would show you how I make my little crumb blocks. This is just a fun thing. And you can decide how you want to incorporate it in your art. Whether it be in your mixed media journals or whether it be in an actual fabric, like a quilt, a wall hanging, whatever you want to do, a fabric book, whatever you decide you want to do with it. I've been incorporating it a little bit in some of my embellishments for my journals. So just to go over what is a crumb block. Well, it's made from fabric crumbs. And you stitch them together until they're a certain size that you want, and you trim them up, and then you have these amazing little blocks that you can put together. So, these are, let's see. Where's my, I thought I had my appropriate rulers handy. They're hiding. Okay. So these are 3.5 inches square, and that's a pretty good size. I've made them smaller. I've made them larger. As you can see, I like to do them either scrappy or, with a certain color tone. Like these are all done in blues. And these are bigger. These particular blocks are 4.5 inches, which is quite a bit of difference from the 3 an inch on both sides. So it's just a wonderful way to use up your scrap fabrics and to incorporate them. Like this make perfect size for some journal pockets, etc. So when you do it scrappy, that means you're adding all different colors. If you're doing it controlled scrappy, that means you're doing certain color combinations like neutrals or pinks or purples, etc. That's controlled scrappy. The idea of scrappy is scraps. See my scraps? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have decided, you guys have to help me now. I've decided that I really do want to try to whittle down my scrap piles of both papers and fabrics. All right, so let's just get started. Let's just pick some. For this first one, let's not worry about having it controlled scrappy. Let's just do scrappy. There's a cool piece. All right, so let's just pull. All right, there's something we can work with. Here's a start. So I put right sides together, and let's bring my machine. I don't know if that's I guess you can kind of see it. Let me try angling this a little bit. Okay. And for this particular one, I'm changing this foot for a 1/4 inch foot. And I put it where I would make sure that I didn't lose it. And, this is a 1/4 inch foot. So this is your guide, and this is a 1/4 inch. And technically, if you want a perfect 1/4 inch, then you want to stitch just a scant 1/4 inch. You want to stitch just the left of your stitching line. That didn't make sense, did it? Okay. All right. So instead of, for a scant 1/4 inch, if I want this to be perfect. But with a scrap quilt, it doesn't have to be perfect. But let's do this anyway. For those of you that are amazing quilters, I just want you to know I do know. So what I do is I move my fabric over from the guide just a smidgen, a scant little bit, so that my seam line will be just a smidge under 1/4 of an inch, but when you fold it out and you press it, that will be 1/4 of an inch, because you have to include your thread line. Okay? Did that make sense? I hope it did. All right, so we're just gonna stitch. But for those of you that don't worry about that kind of thing, that's perfectly fine. No problem. And I'm doing this with purple variegated thread because that's what I have on my machine. I'm working on a journal for a friend, and I think she thinks I'm never gonna get it done, but I really am. It just takes a little while. Okay, so I can finger press that out, and if I want to really be cool, then I can use my presser seam presser. Okay, so now let's pick another fabric. Okay, so let me move this over here where you can, well, actually that's not going to help anyway, because if I have it where you can see me sew it, then I can't have it to where you can see the fabrics that I'm pulling from. So I am not being perfect. Only Mary Poppins is practically perfect in every way. I just watched the remake on that. Did any of you see that? I thought it was fun. However, I personally thought that, and I'm trimming my seam allowance because I'm anal that way. You don't have to be crazy like I am. And I'm finger pressing that, and then I'm just using this. And if you have a press board where you've got your iron and everything right there, you can also just press. Remember the difference between pressing and ironing. Pressing with quilting, you go down and up with your iron. You don't want to do this with your iron because you stretch your fabrics out. Okay, here's another one. I can go like that. Okay, we'll do that. So anyway, Mary Poppins. So I liked it, but I didn't love it because I personally thought that it was too close to the original line, to the original Mary Poppins, but it said Mary Poppins Returns, and so in my mind, to have it be perfectly successful, it needed to have a little bit different storyline. You know, some other things were going on. Okay, let's see. As you can see, I'm just playing with this a little bit. I'm not worrying too terribly much, but I am trying to, whoops, whoa, let's lift that up. That's one of the things, if you don't trim your seams, edges, that it can ball up under with your 1/4 inch foot. It can get caught, so you have to kind of be careful about that. Okay, so I will trim that off, and these will go in my, I have to show you, and I'm getting enough so that I really, at some point, I'm going to make some more paper fabric with my scraps here. here because, as you can see, I'm getting a lot. So I'm just throwing all my threads and all my scraps that are really, really small in there. Now I can take, I sure wish I knew what I did with that one ruler. Do you ever do that? You think it's right in front of you, you've put it so you won't lose it or forget it, and then, here it is. Here it is, yay! Okay, so then I bring this and I measure this, and it's 3 inches. I can make a 3-inch block here. Let's just make it just a tad bit bigger. The idea, I think, that I am working on today is to do something that I can put in a journal, okay? So here's a nice little strip. We'll use part of this. And as you can see, I am lining it up, but I'm taking this over. I'm extending this past my fabric and making sure that I get all of this in so I don't have these fuzzies, the frayed parts showing. Because that will be in the seam allowance, which will be fine. But, you can do it however you want. If you're doing up a real grungy journal or book, then, that would be different. Okay, so I cut my threads off, and for this particular one, as I'm making the blocks, I just keep putting my threads and stuff in my can. So I will do that. Trim my seam allowance. That will go in my paper fabric tin. All right. This is looking good. So let's see. Let's say I want to make a pocket for about a 4 1/4. This is about the right height. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do, we're gonna bring in another strip here. As you can see, guys, you can do this forever. And I have to admit that when you're sewing one, why not sew 20? Why not sew 20, you guys? Oops, come on. Alrighty. It's just when you get your machine out and you get your fabrics out and you get your rulers out and you're cutting, it's like, while I'm doing it, just let me do a few. Now you might wonder why I did this, where I had a straight edge. Let me put that here so you can see. The reason I did that is I didn't want this all to be uniform, like, I wanted it to kind of be a little skewampish, all right? But that's just me. That's this particular one. On a lot of them, I don't do that. Now this, I will keep this piece because that will go in nicely. That's a nice size crumb. So we will finger press and do our little press here. We'll cut this off. Okay, this is cool. I'm liking it. I am. So now let's just add another piece of fabric. Right sides together. Always right sides together. And I use on my machine for regular stitching purposes, I use a 2.2. And I have a little Janome. And I love it. She's a workhorse. And I've had her for many years. She doesn't have any fancy stitches really much at all. I think I've got a total of like 18 total, and that's including zigzag and buttonholes and that kind of thing. Okay, I think that's a good size. So, maybe one more. Just one more. What color shall we do? All right. We'll do it. Now, this particular one thing that I do absolutely love about working with batiks, this one that I'm sewing right now is a batik. And they're a little more expensive than some of the others. But it's very difficult to find a right and a wrong side with a batik. They're so beautifully dyed that you can use either side for the right side. And I love that about them. And they really don't fray. So here's another little scrap, little crumb that I'll keep. Okay. So we're just going to trim that off. Let me show you what I mean. Isn't that wonderful? So this is great. Okay, so this is what I've got, and I'm going to go press it. And I try to keep my seams. Notice how this balled up here. It was upset with me for a minute. But we had a chat, and it decided to cooperate. Notice how my seams are all lying flat? That's what you want when you're sewing fabrics. You don't want things squee-wumpus. You don't want it like this, and you don't want it open like this. It's different for clothing. You want the seams open for clothing, but for little 1/4-inch quilting types things, you want it to one side. When you open the seam up and press it that way, it takes away the strength and stability of the little block. So you want to press it to one side. And sometimes you just have to kind of let the fabric tell you how it wants to lay. Sometimes it'll just have a tendency to lie a certain way. Okay, I'll be right back. Hang on, I'm just gonna press this really quick and I shall return. Hopefully you can hear me. I am recuperating today after baking cookies yesterday with my granddaughter, Kira. Love her, love all my grandkids. But Kira lives close, or we live close to her now. And so it's super fun to have her come over sometimes and bake in the kitchen. It's just fun, and she's got lots of energy. Okay, here we go. I'm going to move my sewing machine out the way for just a minute here and reposition this a little bit. Okay, so this is looking good. So now I'm getting my square and I am just lining it up, trimming. These will go in my fabric paper. In here. Just put those in there. And then we shall line it up on this side. And I'm not needing a particular size. I'm just doing what would be kind of fun. So, let's see. Let me grab a piece of paper and show you what we might do. Okay, so I have these set out for a possible signature. And I like it. So I have, whoops, turn it around. American Theater. So I can just flip through here and see where I might want a pocket. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I like that. All right, let's do that. We'll keep the others intact. And let me move my machine back over. And we'll adjust this again. So sorry. Oh, I do apologize. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Maybe if I do it at this angle, you can see a little bit. Alrighty. So I'm just going to stitch this pocket on here. Let me get my other stuff out of the way here. And now I'm going to, well, I can't see where the other foot is. Here it is. I'm going to switch foots back to my regular size. This is the one that comes with the machine. The 1/4 inch foot I've had to purchase additional. It didn't come with my machine, but they're not terribly expensive. And I think that I will go for a zigzag. And we will just go along here. I think this is going to be a blooper dooper. As you can see, I stitched, but I ran out of bobbin thread. So I am going to, goodness gracious, you're going to think this is horrible, this is terrible. I'd like to tell you that this rarely ever happens, but that would be a lie. It happens a lot. So there's my empty bobbin. So we'll reach over here, and just for now, because I don't want to wind a new bobbin, I'm just using some of these that just have little bits in them. I'm putting in a new bobbin, which is relatively easy in this little machine that I have that I love. Then pulling my threads up so that your bobbin thread comes up. All right, how about we give this another try? Let's position that again. And if you will all cross your fingers for me, that would be awesome. What's really bad is when you have done an awful lot of work stitching something, binding on, or some whatever it might be, and you get clear to the end before you realize that you ran out of thread at the very beginning. That's when it's like, oh, really? And you get a little frustrated. So we'll just take that back and forward again, just to make sure that is secure. Now let me move my machine out of the way. And okay, here we go. So this is where I have come a long way, baby. I used to trim everything right close to my stitching, because in quilting that's what you do. But I have learned that in journal making that it's kind of fun to leave threads. I haven't gotten to the point where I can leave them long yet. Maybe that will come, I don't know. But I have improved. Okay, now what I'm going to do, what I do on my stitching when I stitch a page is with a bone folder, or this is, you know, a seam folder that does the same thing. I smooth the back side because it will be bumpy. It'll be raised up from your stitching, and this kind of smooths it out a little bit. All right, isn't that fun? So we've got a pocket here to put whatever in. I'm loving this. Ooh, I gotta make more. All right, guys, I hope you have watched something that gets you going, that you try some of those fabric scraps and do something fun with them. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, have a fabulous day. Bye now.